Here today presenting our petition to get back our council tax support grant.
Thank you, thank you.
£32,233 stolen from us this year, a further £64,466 to be stolen from us next year. Give us some money back. In 2 years' time, review it when the tax base is sorted out.
Yeah.
And it gives me pleasure to invite Councillor Andre up a little while. Just let me do my bit first, Councillor Andre, if I may. As informed earlier, this particular part of the meeting is being filmed. The Council received a petition from Diane Andre of Haverhill containing over 2,500 signatures, which states, "We call upon St Edmundsbury Borough Council to reinstate all the 128,933 council tax support grant that was intended for Haverhill by central government." The rules of procedure detailed in Part 4 of the Council's Constitution states that a petition that contains more than 2,500 signatures will be debated by full council. Haverhill Town Mayor Roger Andre, welcome to the meeting. I understand you will be presenting the petition on behalf of the petitioners' organisers. In accordance with the Council rules of procedure, you have 5 minutes in which to address the Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whilst the Town Council will welcome the decision of the Borough Council to review their decision to withdraw the council tax support grant from town and parish councils, the proposal to slice 25% from the allocation for this year and a further 25% from the allocation for next year fails to address the principal challenge to our budgets. The original issue has arisen from the decision of the Borough Council to withdraw transfer of government funding over the next 4 years. The government have given undertakings that the funding to SEBC will not cease nor reduce for the next 2 years. The basis for the government funding of the council tax support grant is to meet a reduction in the tax base resulting from changes to the council tax benefit system. As that tax base grows due to additional housing provision in the town, the impact on town council finances will diminish. It is therefore difficult to estimate the precept requirement for future years. Nonetheless, the impact for 2014-15 is a loss of 32,233, which has substantially reduced the budget available for the provision of our events and services. The decision to freeze the precept in recent years has been enabled by securing efficiencies. Inflationary pressures on our annual budgets have been absorbed, and continuing to restrict any precept increase solely to meet the shortfall in funding would still have required us to absorb inflationary costs. The Town Council made a prudent decision to increase the precept for this year to ensure that events and services were protected. With a substantial increase in new homes in our community, both those completed and those currently in progress, the tax base will extend and the impact of the change may well be mitigated. The requirement for the support grant will be significantly reduced by 2016-17, and it's possible that a review then will already have missed the boat. The decision to withdraw the money this year, 32,233, and a further 64,466 in 15-16, remains unchanged. It is those years that Haverhill Town Council need to receive the full support allocated by DCLG. Over 2,500 local people have signed this petition, calling for the cutting grant to be reinstated, and I'm presenting that petition today. The council tax support grant was allocated by St Edmundsbury Borough Council due to limitations of local authority financing protocols. The grant was intended for the town and reflected directly the impact of the change in the tax base created by changing the rules. At the time the original decision was made, borough councillors were advised that the exact figures were not known, as the grant from central government was included in a block grant, and future cuts would reduce that block. That information has proved incorrect. The Borough Council have a direct calculation of the sums allocated and an undertaking that those sums will be preserved for this year and next. Since councillors now have the correct information, it would be possible to set aside their previous decision. The residents and town councillors are calling for the withdrawn grant to be reinstated in full for this and next year, with a review thereafter informed by the tax base available for presetting. This issue is not about reserves held by town councils, nor is it about historic investment or expenditure in Haverhill. It is solely about St Edmundsbury Borough Council withholding funds intended to mitigate the impact of council tax changes. Councillor Griffiths has entered the public domain on this matter with diversionary excuses, inaccurate representations of the extent of the cutting funding. Members should be alert to attempts by Cabinet members to continue to misrepresent the facts in this matter and avoid exposing backdoor funding cuts. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Albright. Would you like to present your petition? As you do have a physical petition with you, so would you like to present it to? Well, me, in fact. Thank you, Councillor Ray. I will now set out the procedures for responding to the petition. The Constitution requires members to decide how to respond to the petition in the following 20 minutes. It may decide to A. Take action as the petition requests. B. Not to take action requested for the reasons put forward in the debate, or to commission further investigations into the matter, for example by referring it to the relevant committees. As the time is limited, and to give everyone the best, fairest chance to use their opportunity to speak to maximum effect, I will use my discretion to determine that the session will be run like a conventional debate. Under the usual rules of debate, and to be fair to all wishing to speak, members may only speak once, and speeches will be limited to no more than 5 minutes, and although I can use my discretion in that instance. As the petition relates to council tax, I call upon Councillor Ray to open the debate by responding to the petition and the proposing motion. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the portfolio holder for resources, I'll speak about the council tax support grant issues. Thank you for the petition. It must have required considerable effort to collect 2,500 signatures and explain all the issues to those you engage with. Of course, we cannot treat Haverhill as a special case for Council Tax Support Grant, or CTSG for short. Whatever we do has to apply to all of our towns and parishes, the rest of whom have accepted the democratic decision of this council last September with good grace. A decision that we took, as always, in the best interests of all the people in the borough. The Council Tax Support Grant was introduced by the government from April 2013 to compensate for the impact council tax benefit reform had on the council tax base. And this is the number of Band D equivalent properties which all councils, including towns and parishes, can levy council tax on. The base was reduced by the benefit reform, which impacted the receipts of all beneficiaries of council tax: the county council, the police, the borough council, and town and parish councils. It is our logical view that council tax support grant is only a transitional relief. It makes no sense to perpetuate what is now a historic tax base, and it is entirely logical to phase it out gradually, as we decided to do last year, not simply to wipe it out completely in one go. And as Councillor Andre has pointed out, of course, any new build properties would help to mitigate the impact. Above all, what we tried to do to achieve in deciding and informing the town and parish councillors how council tax support grant will be reduced over the next few years was to give them certainty for their financial planning. The council tax support grant money is not ring-fenced by government, and it has not been separately identified, and there is no certainty that it will be paid in the coming years. Nevertheless, we took the decision that we will continue to pay it in reducing amounts, regardless of whether we get the funding from government in future years. And this decision was mirrored by several other district councils in Suffolk. This gives parish and town councils certainty and the time to review their financial plans in this light of financial reality. I'm confident that our recent commitment, announced by the leader, to review our position on council tax support grant after 2 years, when the government funding position is clearer, is the right thing to do. St Edmundsbury has moved quickly and decisively to address its funding challenges. We have frozen our council tax in 5 out of the last 6 years, made millions of pounds in savings, and protected frontline services. Every council, whatever its size, has to act in a similar way, and we are facilitating this by giving funding certainty to our town and parish councils. I therefore do not accept the reasons put forward in this petition, and I propose the following resolution, which for ease of reference will now be circulated to councillors and others present here this evening. I'll start reading it, if I may, as the ladies and gentlemen go around distributing it. There are 4 points to the recommendation. The first one, the council notes the content of the petition. Secondly, to give parish and town councils the certainty they have requested, no change be made to the level of council tax support grant, which the Borough Council has already advised parish and town councils will be passed on to them in 2015-2016, for the reasons reiterated in the letter from the leader of the council to parish and town councils on the 18th of June 2014. However, point 3, in view of comments received from local stakeholders, including the petition, the advice of the government minister, and research into how other councils across the country have exercised their same discretionary powers, the council undertakes to review the level of council tax support grant it passes on to parish and town councillors from 2016-17 onwards. And fourthly, this review be carried out in 2015-16 at the halfway point of the existing 4-year plan to phase out council tax support grants, and specifically when the Borough Council has more information from the government on its own financial plans for local government. And the review will also take into account other means of support provided by the Borough Council as part of its overall package of support to local communities. And I move this motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. So, looking for a seconder. First hand up, Councillor Griggs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very happy to second the motion for reasons given by Councillor Gray, but would like to reserve my right to speak at the end of the debate as outside the rules of once or twice.
Thank you very much. So therefore I call upon Councillor Byrne to open the debate on this motion. Councillor Byrne.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I fully support the petition presented by Councillor Andre, the Town Mayor for Haverhill, At the time of the original decision, borough councillors were advised that the amount of funding for council tax support grants was not separately identified, and there was no guarantee of future funding. This was based on information received in August 2013. Information subsequently received confirmed that the sums allocated in 2013-14 were retained and guaranteed for 2014-15 and 15-16. That information was confirmed by Brandon Lewis in a ministerial statement on the 5th of February 2014, and on the 21st of February he again confirmed that guarantees in a letter to all local authorities. Mr Mayor, there was nothing in those communications that says that we could phase out. That was not an option in the government guidelines. The sums allocated were clearly destined for town and parish councils, and it is entirely wrong to withhold any part of that funding. I would not suggest that Councillor Ray deliberately misled members and the Cabinet. However, it is plain from documentation, and I'm assuming that we're all bleeding from the same documentation, that the information he was provided to Cabinet was surely incorrect. Decisions were made on misrepresented advice. On 2 occasions since then, Haverhill Town Council have requested reinstatement of the full grant and have been met with bland rebuttals not addressing the central issue. These funds are intended to mitigate the change in the tax base, nothing else, and should be passed on in full to meet the drain on town and parish funding, entirely attributable to the benefit changes. It is clear that all sections of the Town Council, in addition to a huge majority of the residents, support this petition. To retain any part of the funding in light of the available evidence is now unsustainable. Councillor Griffiths, unfortunately, this casts a shadow on your integrity, supporting and leading members on these matters when the intentions and guidance to local authorities from your own government ministers was clear, direct and plain to all. There is no ambiguity to be considered. The funding should be reinstated to town and parish councils. In due course, the review planned in 2 years will discover if the tax base has recovered. I therefore propose that the funding allocated for council tax support grants be reinstated in full, and a review examining changes to town and parish tax bases should inform future funding.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. Do I have anybody else that would like to speak on this? Councillor Nettleton. Councillor Nettleton.
What you agree with, can you hear me? First of all, thank you. I'd like to start by talking about the council tax support grant document that was circulated to members, which went out to all town and parish councils. And this shows the level of council tax support grant for each parish or town council. There are 56 in total parish or town councils. Of those, 51 of those will receive this year less than £2,000 in support. That leaves 5. One of them is Ixworth, but don't get too excited, John, you're only going to get 2,500. Stanton will get 3,500. These are larger parish councils, so that's why they've got a little bit more. Clare will get 6,800, but apart from Clare being a town council and quite large, Clare, the old Clare Rural District Council used to operate and take on services, and they still use some of those. So the legacy of the local government reorganisation in 1994 still applies. Bury St Edmunds Town Council will get £14,500 from this. So 55 of the 56 town and parish councils will receive between them £47,000. That's 55 authorities will receive £47,000. The total pot is £143,700, which means that one of these councils will receive £96,700. Now, if this was the Eurovision Song Contest, we'd be saying, and the 12 points go to Haverhill. Now, Haverhill won this by a mile. They are the Eurovision Song Contest winners. They're also the largest beneficiary of this. So Haverhill should be delighted with the fact that they're going to get 96,700, while everybody else gets so much less, only £47,000 between them. So I don't understand the position. I understand what Roger Andre said about the legal aspect of that, but you know, as a councillor, I have to rely on the legal advice I'm getting from the legal officers of the council, and they've been quite clear about what that should be. He said it wasn't about general reserves and anything like that. However, could I just point out from the figures of the Haverhill budget that the Haverhill projected expenditure is over £1 million for this year. Their projected income is just over £200,000. Now, in my opinion, I was a chairman of a Policy and Finance Committee of St Edmundsbury Council for 3 years, and previously for 3 years as the Council Internal Auditor, and I've been chairman of the Town Council. My view, that is too big a gap. That something has to be done. Either Haverhill Town Council should be looking to reduce expenditure or increase its income, or do both. And I hope they'll take that on board for future years. And so I think we can also look at the salaries paid to staff, 368,000. They've also got earmark reserves, and the outturn for 2013-14 showed that to be 613,000. The general reserves are 382,000. That's a total of 995,000, which is almost £1 million in reserves. So I don't see that there's a financial crisis in Haverhill if Haverhill Town Council was to revisit some of its budget headings for the year 2015-16. I think the settlement is generous, and therefore I will be supporting the motion proposed by Councillor Ray. Thank you.
Councillor Anderson, thank you.
Councillor
Brundage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to second Councillor Burns' motion. I'll speak, please. I'm glad that the people of Haverhill have taken the time to get this petition. It shows and highlights the widespread disappointment that people in our town have in the Borough Council after their decision to phase out the grant. Haverhill Town Council had to raise their portion of the precept to cover the loss. The only alternative would have been to cut some, if not all, of the entertainment and social events that are much valued by our residents. In fact, it was this lack of events and things to do for our community that actually provided the impetus for the forming of the Town Council 25 years ago. I remember the time before this happened well. Haverhill was virtually devoid of any cultural entertainment events except for maybe the local pubs and a bit of antisocial behaviour. The Borough County never seemed to get it right with Haverhill. We have still got the same one road by a street and worse transport links than we had in the 1960s. We then had a population of 8,000 people. We're now getting towards 30,000 people. For one instance, 4 weeks ago at the Development Control meeting, I objected to the northwest of the development because the much needed relief road cannot be delivered until 5 years after the commencement of the project. The delay in delivery of this road could cause severe traffic congestion on already overstretched roads around our town. I was told that the money just was not there to do it at the commencement of the project. The developer did not have the funds, and ditto the LEP, the borough and the county. The outline plans were passed. 2 weeks later, bingo, it was announced that there would be a new eastern bypass at the proposed Berry development. I was gobsmacked. The people of Haverhill did not cause the financial crash, but it sure seems like the Borough Council wants to make them pay for it. The council should do the right thing, prove to the people of Haverhill and the other parishes that you can make up for this mistake and give the money back. Many other councils have already done exactly this. The government minister himself has said he would like to see the grant passed on to the town and parish council. It's not too late to right the wrong. Please give it back. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Before we move on, I think the legal officer would just like to make a point, legal point.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Byrne has in fact moved an amendment, because we can't have two motions on the table at once, and that has been seconded by Councillor Brown, which is to, as I understand it, to reinstate the amount quoted in the petition in full for this year. We then therefore have to debate that amendment. We take that separately from the debate on the substantive motion. So we need to debate that amendment first and deal with the vote on that before we then go back to the substantive motion, which is what has been put on the table by Councillor Ray. Having had a discussion also with the Mayor, we are coming up shortly to the 20 minutes, although clearly I will not include my own contribution in 20 minutes. The Mayor is suggesting that from the Chair, I think he will move to suspend that part of procedural 9.9, which says that the debate is limited to 20 minutes, to suggest that we have a further 10 minutes for the debate, taking up to a total of 30 minutes. So if Mr Mayor would like to do that, but is everybody clear about that we would then be voting on the amendment before we can go back to the substantive motion?
Councillor Nesson just calling for a point of order. Councillor Nettles and I have been assured in my training to be the chair of this full council meeting determines that you actually highlight in law, in the letter of the law, what your point of order is, otherwise it isn't a point of order.
I'll do my best. My point is that it's not an amendment, it's a separate motion, that's simply it. And that is the common practice, and I don't know the legal statute, because there's no choice going to say that before us, and we looked it up. But if you're proposing here a separate motion, which if the first motion falls, then obviously Maureen Burke can then propose a motion, but I don't think it's an amendment. Thank you.
I'm going to seek advice from my legal officer.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I took the view that as what Councillor Byrne said was not completely cancelling the effect of the motion, it therefore is an amendment rather than a separate motion, so it needs to be taken before we move back to the substantive motion.
Councillor Byrne. No, Councillor Byrne, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Do I get an opportunity now to come back on the amendment and say more than what I've already said? No. Okay.
And in truth, Councillor Cockle, I've got to actually move the change in standing order, as it were, to allow the debate to continue for the next 10 minutes. So I'm going to ask that in fact happens, and I'd like fellow councillors to actually either approve or not that request. So from the Chair, I'm suggesting that we have another 10 minutes on our 20-minute debate. So could I have somebody propose that happens? I'm going to go for Councillor Ray, and Councillor Hines has seconded that. So all those in favour that we extend the debate for 10 minutes? Thank you. Any against? Any abstentions? And ladies and gentlemen, we have another 10 minutes in which to continue this debate. So, I'm going to go for Councillor Cockle, but then Councillor Gower after. Thank you. Yes, this is on the amendment. Yes, please record.
Mr Mayor, I also support, as a member of Grace and Enders Town Council, Councillor Mrs Byrne's proposition. To my way of thinking, those who are still very active in town or parish councils, we have to take into account that when we set our precept, we have to try and work out a budget that's going for the year to come. All of us are well aware that in the event of trying to raise anything above 2%, we have to have a referendum, and that would indeed cost money. My final point, I was listening to support again Councillor Byrne's point of view. This is following rather set of the Local Audit and Accountability Act of 14. The referendum principles will include levies and will therefore be based on the level of a banded council tax. We have also previously pointed out that there is some £3.3 billion in the settlement this year for council tax support schemes. There is an element within the national pot that there is specific to reflect reductions in the parish tax base. We have not separately identified the money because it is not ring-fenced, and as caseloads change and schemes evolve, the amount that different parishes need will change. It would be wrong to try to manage this centrally. but we have been clear that we expect billing authorities to carry out passing on support to town councils and parishes to help mitigate any reduction in their tax base due to the local tax support scheme. This comes from the Minister, Mr Mayor, and therefore I would suggest most strongly that all of us support Mr Brown's amendment.
Councillor Hynd.
Thank you very much. When this was discussed last autumn, I think it was our September full council, I spoke then against reducing the grant to town councils. Obviously an explanation was given of why this had to happen, and whilst I didn't personally vote for the motion, I could possibly understand why someone did. What I find disconcerting this evening is that my colleague, Councillor Byrne, has clearly stated that, you know, there has been, I don't know if it's been emails, letters, or exactly what, but there has been communication from Brandon Lewis explaining exactly what has happened, and she has this here. And if the information that we were given before was in fact incorrect, then I think we should be reinstating the grant to all our town and parish councils.
Councillor Gower.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I can confirm that there is a strength of feeling in Haverhill about having what is deemed to be their money returned to them, and Haverhill people don't understand why the borough won't do that. However, the answer has been given here tonight again by Councillor Ray. However, what this situation does do is it reinforces the view that Haverhill is the loser when it comes to dealing with the borough, and also the county on other issues. It is most definitely, I would suggest, not a positive or helpful image for the town. I won't go over what the borough has done for Haverhill, because strangely enough, in Haverhill we can see quite plainly the development of certain parts of the town over recent years, and we can also see quite plainly where this hasn't happened. What the people in Haverhill who've contacted me want to know is what's going to be done in future to promote the economic development and quality of life in Haverhill. That's not an unreasonable question. The answer, however, to that question is that any future achievements in the town will have to be done by partnership and in relationship with other groups, whether they are the local enterprise partnership, the county council, the borough council, the voluntary sector, One Haverhill, or any other group you care to mention. That relationship will hopefully extend to participating in the review in 2015 when the financial position is clear.
Thank you, Councillor Gower. I'm going to call Councillor back, and then I'm going to turn to Councillor Ray to find out whether he wants to respond to the amendment on the basis we are running out of time. So, Councillor back.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have no doubt this motion proposed by Councillor Ray will be passed tonight because 70 is our hearing number. However, I'm really disappointed in this motion because this is a hugely important decision involving a lot of money. A lot of people in Haverhill have spent a lot of time considering this, and yet we are asked to make a decision on the basis of nothing at all. We have no papers, we have no financial information, we have nothing. I think this is totally wrong. I do not think the council should be allowed to make decisions under these circumstances. So I'm extremely disappointed, Councillor Ray, that you're proposing this because it is inadequate. We do not make decisions on this sort of on the debate. It is, to me, it is quite wrong. Neither do I think we should make the decision to approve Councillor Mrs Bowen's approval. It requires detailed information. It's an important decision, and I'm not going to support the concerted motion.
Thank you, Councillor Ray. Councillor Ray, would you like to respond, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll just make a few points very briefly because of the time. I just emphasise that we plan to reduce council tax support grant in line with the reduction we have suffered in revenue support grant, 49% over 2 years. The government has given us local discretion to decide on the allocation of any money that we receive. And indeed, one district council in Suffolk has not passed on any money at all. In 2013-14, the first year that we gave out the council tax support grant, we actually received from the government £166,000, but we paid out £192,000, as we were keen to see that all the towns and parishes should be fully compensated for the benefit changes. So it actually cost us money in that year. And what we're doing is in line with what the majority of district councils are doing nationally. There is, in answer to Councillor Cobble's point, there is no referendum requirement for any increase in free tax by town and parish councils. That's been announced by the government. And in answer to Councillor Levac, full information was available to councillors, full financial information, when we debated this issue in full last September. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I urge members to reject the amendment to the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. I'm going to, because of the time constraints, I'm going to now move straight to the vote on the amendment, please. So could I ask all those councillors that would like to support the amendment, please show. And those against. So we're considering that 6 voted against for the amendment and 28 against. So I declare that the amendment fails. And we'll now move straight on to Councillor Griffiths to a second motion, please, if you could, the original motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'll be as brief as I can be. I'd like to thank Haverhill Town Council for at least giving us the opportunity to talk about Haverhill. Though I'm less happy about the impugnment of my Secretary of Misrepresentation. We'll talk about that another time. I actually know Haverhill pretty well. I have done for 45 years or so, more than a lot of people in this room. Ironically, perhaps, that relationship began thanks to my father, who ensured whether I wanted or not, I spent a lot of time there, since he represented the town and West Suffolk, along with a succession of town, borough and county councillors and MPs. And representing Haverhill as most of us in this room here tonight do. Haverhill is a very different town, 45, 35, 25, indeed 15 years ago, when I first became a councillor. And local people then may well have had a point when suggesting that Haverhill has been neglected, or certainly not paid enough attention to by the local borough, county or national governments at the time. And I tend to agree with that. But if they, or you, still think, as do what some councillors seem to be saying at the time, the same thing, they are simply not right. Nor indeed have they been right, as far as St Edmundsbury is concerned anyway, since I first became the leader of the council in 2003, and immediately made investment in Haverhill top priority for the first time in St Edmundsbury. Of course, investing in Haverhill is not just about our giving money to Haverhill Town Council. Far from it. St Edmundsbury works with the private sector on huge and small projects, with voluntary groups on funding and improving services, directly with local communities on things like open spaces, with business organisations like the Chamber of Commerce, Mentor and the LEPS, on the local economy, and with schools and West Suffolk College, with housing providers, the County Council, government ministers and MPs, and a whole range of other partners through One Haverhill. And just that point about Brandon Lewis, Matthew Hancock, the Chief Executive of St Edmundsbury, and I met with Brandon Lewis to get the truth from this, and he accepted the point that if he wanted all the monies passed through the Town Council, he could have ring-fenced it, which he did not. So that's just the only point that I want to raise. David Ray can handle all the others. I admit we don't do all the things we've just been talking about for Haverhill Town Councillors as such, or indeed for any party, political or personal interest. We do it for Haverhill and for West Suffolk, their residents, businesses, environment and quality of life, past, present and future. We invest, of course, throughout West Suffolk in very many lovely villages, but for the purpose of this, we'll try and stick just to the things we are doing in Haverhill. We've worked very hard with others to deliver Haverhill Research Park, investing £750,000 to help bring in 2,000 new jobs. And we're working with the same developer on the exciting prospect of the Epicenter Innovation Hub. We have extended the town centre with a £9.25 million cinema and restaurant, a £5 million refit of the leisure centre, £2 million in Queen Street, St Jubilee Walkfields car park, and have committed a further £750,000 for the High Street to back up the town centre master plan we are working on with One Haverhill. Beyond the town centre, as well as the £450,000 each year we spend on maintaining parks, we've created 3 new Jubilee open spaces and spent £2 million breathing life into the community football project. And we spend £120,000 each year helping run the leisure centre, as well as investing in its fabric and weather pitches. And this is on top of the everyday services which your and our residents rightly take for granted, like housing support, collecting waste, emptying bins, planning service, administering all kinds of benefits, maintaining public spaces, etc., etc., etc. But again, it's not just about cash. It's also about sheer hard work, expertise, time and commitment. And so many meetings with a whole host of others, like the police, the health service, the private volunteer sectors, the government ministers, departments, and the local enterprise partnership, who do have the big money to unlock major projects for the town, such as £4 million to complete the research part funding, and they may even, with luck, help tackle some of the challenges of things like the A1 307. Some of these things are mentioned in my news report. However, returning to the petition, and directly, if I may, to Haverhill Town Council and Haverhill Town Councillors who are here, because that's what this seems to be all about. We want to work constructively with and to support you. We already do. We collect over £770,000 for you every year, which you charge your taxpayers through their council tax. David Nettleton's also been using facts about that, as well as those from the County Council, the police, and ourselves. And we give you another, roughly £100,000 on top. And we throw in another £25,000 by your 10 local Haverhill councillors' locality budgets to spend in their wards. Plus, we give one Haverhill £50,000 community funding every year for local groups to spend on local projects. So why in the world are you complaining so loudly, complaining us about 32,000 or even 64,000 over 2 years? St Edmundsbury has to find another £1.5 million savings on top of the £3.5 million savings we've already made together with Forest Street, while maintaining our services in Haverhill and elsewhere, and protecting every one of your and our council taxpayers from any tax rises at all. So we know about the real world, so St Edmundsbury, and we care about Haverhill.
Councillor Willis, can I ask you just to wind that down? Thank you very much.
So in closing, I think it's worth remembering that it's not Haverhill Town Council's money which you are talking about, nor is it ours. Money belongs to the residents of Haverhill and the residents of Devonshire. And you, with respect, and however important, are not Haverhill. You are elected to serve Haverhill and West Suffolk, where it is such a very important town, and to work together with others to make our quality of life and theirs better in every way you can. As are we, as are the county councillors, our police commissioner and our MPs. There is, of course, much more to do for the town of Haverhill and its great residents and businesses, so please spend their money wisely. Please stop carping. Please think naturally. Please work with the rest of us to help improve the council process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Ray, I'd like you to please respond to the proposals in the debate rather, and then we'll go straight to the voting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I've probably said what I want to say. In the interest of brevity, nothing to add.
Thank you very much indeed. In that case, I will now...
I'd like to ask a point of order, please.
You know the rules of engagement, Councillor Russell. You can only ask a point of order if you have the letter of the law that can support that point of order request.
Especially trained.
I just asked on a point of law, never mind about the Constitution and all that business, but it seems ironic to me that we've had the leader and the cabinet member who answers to a motion, yet a person who's raised an amendment, another amendment, is not being given the right to respond to any question that's what he said to her. I just wonder what clarification there is on that.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The rules of debate are quite clear that the mover of an amendment doesn't have the right of reply at the end of the debate on the amendment. The right of reply does go to the mover of the original motion.
Councillor Byrne.
I obviously have to accept the legal advice, but I will respond to the leader of the council in writing to his presentation to us tonight.
Thank you very much. So, Councillor, I'm going to now move to the vote. Thank you very much indeed. So therefore, can I please ask you to vote on whether or not you, if you can remember the proposition, because that was a little while ago, the council raised a proposition and you have got it written in front of you. So would you like to, those in favour of the proposition, please show. Those against, please. I therefore wanted to say that the amendment passed 26 votes to 5. Thank you. Motion, sorry. Motion 26 to 5. So that was carried. Councillor Andre, may I thank you and the other members of the public in attendance for coming. You are more than welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting if you so wish. Thank you very much.